The remains of the last Israeli captive held in Gaza have been returned for burial, marking a pivotal moment in Israel's war and the first phase of Donald Trump's ceasefire plan. The body of police officer Ran Gvili was found in eastern Gaza. Israel had said it would reopen Gaza's southern Rafah crossing with Egypt once the search for his remains was completed. Rebuilding the strip is an important part of the ceasefire plan, but Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has told Parliament the next phase will be the disarmament of Hamas and demilitarisation and not Gaza's reconstruction.
We are at the doorstep of the next phase. What is the next phase? The next phase is disarming Hamas and demilitarizing the Gaza Strip. The next phase is not reconstruction. Hamas in Gaza will be disarmed. Gaza will be demilitarized. This will happen. It will happen as our mutual friend, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, said. It will happen the easy way or it will happen the hard way, but it will happen.
Palestinians in Gaza are questioning Israel's commitment to the second phase of the US-backed ceasefire. Many of the requirements of phase one still haven't been met. Let's take a look at where things stand now. Hamas was required to return all living and deceased captives in Gaza in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. With Monday's recovery of the last captives' remains, Hamas has now fulfilled its side of the agreement. Under phase one, Israel was meant to stop all attacks on the Strip, but since the ceasefire came into effect, at least 484 Palestinians have been killed. Israeli forces also haven't retreated to the agreed-upon so-called Yellow Line. Instead, displaced Palestinians have been squeezed into ever-shrinking neighborhoods. The Rafah crossing was supposed to be reopened on both sides to facilitate the distribution of humanitarian aid, but it's still not clear when it will reopen. The ceasefire stipulated that full aid will be immediately sent into Gaza. However, Israel continues to restrict the entry of vital supplies, including shelters. Al Jazeera's correspondent Nour Odeh has been covering the region extensively, joins us now in the studio. So, Nour, the Trump's peace plan talks about redeveloping Gaza for the benefit of people in its second point of that peace plan. Listening to what Netanyahu is saying, it doesn't sound like reconstruction is going to go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're on the same page. Netanyahu wants to leverage now his cooperation by opening the Rafah crossing, according to some reporting in this week, by conditioning reconstruction on disarmament, which means that this phase could stretch out for months, if not longer.
Now, anyway, Rafah was supposed to be opened and it wasn't supposed to be preconditioned to stage two, right?
Absolutely.
So the Israelis are already behind schedule, to put it lightly, on that one. There's also a whole host of other issues. How would Gazans approach Rafah, since it's the other side of this yellow line, right? And Israelis haven't withdrawn even back to the yellow line.
They have not withdrawn. In fact, this yellow line has been very elastic. We know since October, Israel has taken more land and added it to its area of control in Gaza, up to 13% of Gaza, in fact. So in order for Palestinians to get to Rafah, they must enter this no-go zone where
they get shot at coming anywhere near it,
where dozens of Palestinians have been killed over the past 2 months or 3 months, and then get to Rafah. Israel wants to do its own inspection of those who want to travel or enter Gaza. That's after pre-screening by the security apparatuses. So there are logistical details that are still unclear, Sami, but really what it boils down to is Israel is on the ground. It will leverage whatever it can to make sure that the arrangements are workable for the Israeli government, which didn't want any of this to happen.
Now that the last body of a captive has been returned, does it give any hope for Israel coming through on some of the things it was supposed to do in phase one, like allowing unrestricted aid, and not to mention stopping the attacks?
Well, it is the only game in town, as many Palestinians in Gaza are saying. And so there is hope that now that there are no captives, no remains to be recovered, the mediators, the Trump administration can exercise a lot more pressure to get things done regarding aid, regarding medical supplies, the entry of the Palestinian Technical Committee that is supposed to start working and functioning and providing services and working on electricity and so on. So given the fact that there are very few options, Palestinians are holding on to that hope because that's the only thing they have. Really.
Listening to the statement by Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, and we should point out who is wanted over accusations of war crimes. An arrest warrant has been issued for him by the ICC. There is a question when you listen to him. It sounds like he's not going to go through with anything else until Palestinian factions have been disarmed. What does that practically speaking mean if he doesn't follow through with the Trump plan, which talked about disarmament in tandem with an Israeli withdrawal? Does that leave Palestinians under a continued military ground occupation by Israel?
Yes, and it also condemns them to this continued state of misery and dispossession. Palestinians are in tents. Most of the population in Gaza do not have homes to go back to. They do not have shelter to keep them warm or to cool them off when the summer arrives. The Israeli government wants to make all of the relief in terms of reconstruction contingent upon its milestones of disarmament. And when we talk disarmament, even that concept is not clear. The Americans haven't been public about what they view as satisfactory disarmament. We're not talking about, planes and rockets or missiles. We're talking about whatever remains of the rockets, perhaps the location of undestroyed tunnels, and personal weapons. This is a process, as we've heard from many involved in the thinking. Israel wants it to happen completely, thoroughly, and then talk about everything else.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much, Nour. Good to have you with us here in the studio. Let's take it to Gaza City now. I've got Hind Khoudary there. How are people on the ground there reacting to the news of the handover, the return of the last Israeli captive's body? Are they hopeful that life might improve for them, that Israel might come through on not only commitments of phase 2, but some of the commitments it was supposed to do in phase 1, like just how about stopping the attacks?
Well, Satmi, everyone's anticipating and they're waiting to see what is the change that is going to take place on the ground. So Palestinians have been promised of reconstruction, the reopening of Rafah, more aid to enter, but nothing has been fulfilled on the ground. So this was the last card for Israel, and it was the justification for them for postponing everything. So now is the time for Palestinians to see, is there any change going to happen? A lot of stuff that Palestinians have been promised with in the first phase of the ceasefire were not fulfilled. For example, the humanitarian aid that's supposed to come. People were promised that 600 trucks of humanitarian aid are going to enter every single day. But according to the Gaza media office, approximately 230 trucks are only entering. And this shows the gap of what Palestinians need on the ground and what is actually happening and taking place in the reality.
Bear with us for a second, Hind, because I just want to remind viewers of what we're talking about, and that is that most of Gaza lies in ruins, with entire neighborhoods wiped off the map. Israeli bombardment, along with its bulldozers and excavators, have flattened block after block, creating an estimated 61 million tons of debris. Now, the United Nations says clearing all of that rubble could take up to 15 years. And under all that debris, an estimated 10,000 Palestinian bodies. Recovering them will be extremely difficult, since Israel is still blocking heavy machinery from coming into the Strip. Let's go live to Hind Khoudary. She's live in Gaza City. So, Hind, once again, now that we've had the last Israeli captive's body returned to Gaza, any sign that Israel will come through on point 7 of Trump's peace plan, which was supposed to see the entrance of rubble-removing equipment into Gaza so Palestinians can also find the remains of their loved ones?
Not yet, Sami. This is not only debris and it's not only 61 million tons of rubble, but we're talking about at least 10,000 Palestinians that are still trapped underneath. So it's not only reconstruction Gaza, removing the rubble. Beneath this rubble are families that were stuck for the past 2.5 years, where other family members are waiting for the day they could remove or could collect and retrieve whatever they could retrieve to bury them, visit them in graveyards, and mourn them. So it holds a lot and it carries a lot of meanings for a lot of families here, where yes, it's ceasefire, yes, the war ended, but their beloved ones are still trapped under the rubble. Wherever you go, Sami, and walk in the streets of Gaza, you'll find buildings that totally collapsed, but beneath them there are still people buried. And according to the civil defense teams, they're receiving a lot of appeals from different families here in Gaza, telling them that there are families buried, but they tell them that they do not have the machinery or the capabilities to retrieve. So we have been not seeing any efforts in this case so far.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much to Hind Khoudary.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.